Hello. It's another Write Once, Read Many. This time about chapters 18.7 and 18.8. Turn down the song a little bit. We can see the nice speed draw. I believe that's Vista that we can see there. But, yeah. Just gonna give a second for people to file in. Oh wait. What am I doing? I need to put the link out there. Hey, Bill. This drawing is quite complicated. There's a lot going on in this scene. Hey, Greg. And hey, 2 + 4 × 5, who's driving? This week's audience participation is make up your own evil Noel clones of capes. Yeah. This week for the theme, I guess, I didn't write anything, but thinking about the chapters. Oh, and let's switch to the final art. Yeah, it's quite nice. Real grody Powers moment captured in art. Let's see here. I guess like the overconfidence of the heroes is kind of a theme for these 2 chapters. But I don't know. It's not that pronounced. If I think of something, I'll bring it up. But I didn't think of any of the themes while I was looking at it earlier. Anyway, so our chapter starts off with Taylor, with Skitter, conveying the situation that she can hear inside the area with Noel and Eidolon. They're trying to stay backed off enough that they're not in sight or anything. And we get some information about that's new to Skitter, but not new to us, about Eidolon knowing what Cauldron is, knowing about the Case 53s being caused by Cauldron, and then knowing that Coil was connected to Cauldron. So all things that we know as an audience, but that Skitter did not know until now. She's having a real hard time understanding what they're saying, and sort of chastises herself several times in the similar ways of like being upset that she didn't focus on growing her powers. But I mean, I don't know. What more could you have done? You've been doing so many things. But you know, she's very hard on herself. That's a classic Skitter. Vale says, I thought the theme was that cloning is cool. Did I misunderstand? Yeah, cloning's pretty awesome is the theme. And we love cloning. Nothing goes wrong in these chapters. Let's see here. Boop, 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 boop. So, their conversation basically consists of all that stuff, plus Noelle saying that she is like not able to control herself anymore, so even if she wants to die, then she'll keep fighting anyway. Eidolon notices with his danger sense that there's not just Noelle there, a bunch of clones pop out of different things, and she had been using some specialized Vista who can put living things, like squish living things flat against non-living things, seemingly. We don't really know the extent of this power. I guess also against living things, because one of them, several of them pop off of Noelle, so I guess she can just squish flat any given living thing, so she can hide capes, and they can, like, do the thing that happens in A Link Between Worlds, where Link pops flat against a surface, and then he can run along the side. So that's a pretty cool Vista. I mean, as far as, like, altered versions of powers, that would be a fun one to actually be in the story. But yeah, the Noelle's got, like, Circus, several of them, some Ubers, some Leets. That's, like, the main army is these types of war capes. We got Vistas, Circuses, Ubers, and Leets. And there's, like, a Leet who's hiding in a building with a Tinker sniper rifle that he's getting ready to shoot at Eidolon. And let's see here. How's it sort of go down? Oh, Greg says, I don't know, that power sounds pretty surface level. No depth to it at all. Yo! That's a pretty good one. Let's see here. So, Skitter tries to sabotage the gun, and she's telling other people about the problem with the trap. And then Grace is very confident that Eidolon isn't going to be tricked by this. She just says Eidolon knows what he's doing. And I mean, Tattletale rightfully is like, what if that gun punches through his invincibility or whatever? Because, like, honestly, there are a lot of people who you can't take out by normal means, and one of the only things that you can do is throw as many off-the-wall, like, powers as possible at them, and, like, Tinkers have the availability of, like, switching to lots of different things, and Leet specifically can make, like, anything that he's never made before, essentially. So his box of options is quite large. So he's actually a reasonable candidate for someone who's going to make a Tinker gun that could punch through a lot of different invincibilities. He's seemingly very, like, one-track mind and not actually that good at coming up with stuff, but that's another matter. This is evil Leet. He doesn't care about video games. In fact, he hates video games. Let's see here. I like getting to talk about the different evil ones, because I can, as long as they don't get characterized too much on screen, I can jokingly characterize them in so many different directions, depending on the character. Vale says, Skitter with that power restriction would be so limited. You can control any bug, but only once. You can control any bug, but only once. This is silly. 2 + 4 × 5 says, implying regular Leet doesn't also hate video games. Have you met a League of Legends player? They all hate that game. Well, you know, he at least espouses with his outward messages that he does love the inspired art form that is video games, and his whole purpose is to get other people to understand the true beauty of video games. Tecton keeps them out of the fight, telling them that they shouldn't actually engage. And then he says that they'll go and try and back people up if things go wrong, because Eidolon's powers are weakest just after he changes them, so any clone would be starting from scratch. But, like, I think that really is discounting the possibility that the clone doesn't have that restriction on the power, or, like, that the power operates in a significantly different way, like, one power, and it's really strong, and you get it right at the start. Like, the clones obviously have altered versions of the powers. Tecton has seen it in battle. So he's being a little silly. And then Tattletale says to compromise. And this is, I feel like this is easy to miss if you're not, like, thinking about it. But Tattletale has Skitter draw arrows on the ground and pointing the way to Leet. And then she doesn't really say anything further. Skitter doesn't worry about, like, why. And then, I mean, the obvious implication is that this is when Imp is going. That's why it's the implication. And then, what do we got here? So, Noelle doesn't want to win the fight. She does want to die. And this is when she talks about the fact that she's not able to really control herself. And a lot of what's happening is the power, like, manipulating her emotions and stuff. I mean, she doesn't say all that, but that's what she means. Skitter gets some bugs in the Leet gun and is trying to eat up the power cells and crap, but the bugs keep dying because, like, you know, they're eating power cells. And then, they figure out that both sides are stalling. Tattletale explains it. Eidolon's trying to cycle powers till he gets something really good and then get them up to full strength. And then Noelle's waiting for the sniper to take a shot. And so, what is it? When she says, I'm trying to sabotage the gun, but it looks like he'll be ready to shoot any second now. Then there's this moment where Tecton and Grace look at each other. Skitter's not really sure what that's about. Like, she says, was their faith in Eidolon faltering as I described the situation? Or was it more about me? I think it kind of is about her, because it's like, I don't think that even though they've been fighting with her, they've realized the extent of her power yet. The fact that she's, like, sensing the whole thing, that she can hear what everybody's saying, that she's sabotaging the gun, that she's basically been fighting this whole time without, like, needing to be anywhere near the fight. It's just, like, I think it is kind of, like, surprising. I think people in universe continue to underestimate her despite what she's done, because it's like, if you haven't specifically thought out all the applications of the power, you probably haven't thought of some of this stuff happening. And so, I mean, people are bound to be surprised by Skitter. Anyway, so I think that that's what that's about, but if anybody else is like, I know what Tecton and Grace were thinking, then, you know, let me know. That's what I thought it was. So Leet goes to take the shot, and then he can't because the gun doesn't work because of the bugs eating it. So he sort of moment to moment tinkers, and he's you know, ripping it apart and putting it back together and stuff. Noelle has a bunch of has all the other clones attack. And then Eidolon hits the whole place with, like, an ultra gravity that, like, kills all the people and smashes most of the bugs and stuff. And then the Vista, who can go against surfaces, wasn't killed, but, like, almost everybody else was. Everybody who's in, like, the ground area. It doesn't hit Noelle that hard because, you know, it's very difficult to damage Noelle. So, then, once Skitter reports this back to the group... Oh, I forgot to... Whoops. I think I forgot to turn off notification sounds, but I'm doing it now. So let's see here. Yeah. She reports the fact that he crushed everything in a huge area, and then Tattletale kind of flips out, thinking that he killed Imp. And this starts confusing Skitter, because she's like, around Noelle, what do you mean, Imp? And Tattletale indicates that Imp is going to kill Leet to stop the sniping. Sniper, no sniping, she yells. And then Gru is getting antsy. Tecton is saying we got to keep our cool, that kind of thing. And then Eidolon is gravity smashing things a bit more. And then even though that's happening, Noelle still takes a leap at him. And then Leet fixes the gun again, and Eidolon turns as if he's going to smash the building that he's in. Imp shows herself, and then murderizes the evil Leet, and the clone Leet, I would say, maybe, because what if he's less evil than regular Leet? So Imp kills clone, and Eidolon does not smash her because he's got pretty good reflexes, so he doesn't pull the powers trigger. And then a moment later, Imp has dropped away again. Skitter loses track of things and is confused how Leet's dead. And then Eidolon gets back to the other fight, reporting that Leet is dead. Tattletale's able to piece together that Imp did it. And then Tattletale finally, when upon confirmation that the building wasn't collapsed by Eidolon, she releases Skitter, who's like, I don't know what's been happening. Why is she so upset about Eidolon having a leap behind him? Not being able to tell Imp is part of the situation. This quote here, it wasn't like her to get that upset. And then she makes up a reason. This is like a perfect like show don't tell of Imp's power, where it says she usually had more information to work with, so she had a better idea of what was going on. But that couldn't account for her full reaction. I wish I could read her expression. So Skitter comes up with two mental excuses that go hand in hand to completely cover the fact that Imp is part of the situation. She's able to overwrite her memory moment to moment, It's great. Classic Imp stuff. And then the clone Leet sort of falls out the window because of just how his body slumps, and then sloops out of the window. And when that happens, then it pulls the gun behind him, and when the gun hits the ground, it like super Tinker explodes, and it's so bright that Skitter can even see it with her like really, really damaged vision. And then, her bugs see it quite a bit. And the bugs in the area that are close just get cooked so fast that she's not even sure what kills them, it seems like. And then, Eidolon had hopped out of the way into the sky while this was happening so that he wouldn't get blowed up, because his danger sense has been doing pretty good. And then Gru's upset, seemingly still knowing that Imp is there, although Skitter doesn't. Maybe he's better at figuring it out. Noelle's running around at super speeds. I think Imp's power does work on Noelle, ? But yeah, Noelle's just crashing into stuff, and crunching the ground beneath her and stuff. It says here she's very ungainly and just, it's power that's moving her, not grace. And then she's also got like enough legs and tentacles and stuff that she can keep feet under her very easily. As she continues to grow, as we may recall, there's like different new types of monster parts added to the bottom, so she just gets more and more options with time, really. Let's see here. They kind of move in, but they only move into where the spot the fight had started, not to like where Eidolon and Noelle are now. And then they do find Imp has been like thrown against a wall inside of the building she was in, I think. And so Noelle's making more clones. They find Imp is hurt really bad, in a way. She's got like a damaged like a blown out eardrum, which is like pretty bad in my opinion. That's a bad injury. And she's still able to run around and stuff, but her balance is thrown off. And then Tattletale, makes a quip about them being able to heal this later. Which Tattletale's already said, like, she's going to get someone to heal Skitter's blindness, so she's very confident about the fact that she'll be able to get someone. She's already explained that. Gru's all mad. He smacks Imp a couple times in a brotherly sort of way, and then they talk about Eidolon's like progress in the fight and how well he's doing. They seem to be pretty impressed with what's going on. He seems to have precognition, gravity powers, and power immunity is what Tattletale thinks, and is using the gravity to fly himself around as a side part of the power. They sort of talk through the situation. They think their goal should be to try and take out the Vista, who's helping coordinate Noelle's forces and keep them alive. Some timing attacks happen on Eidolon fighting. I mean, it's a good fight, but I just don't want to go through every single blow. Let's see here. Eidolon's being extra cautious to not hit any civilians. They all get ready and they are moving again, and then Eidolon keeps destroying all the bugs around him, and Skitter doesn't know why. And we quickly learn in the next section that it's because the bugs that she had been touching onto Noelle had been absorbed, so there are clone bugs that she can't sense. Clones! Can you believe it? So these clones are unsensible by Skitter unless she has bugs, bump into them and fight them. So she's got a battle blind against these enemy bugs in future chapters. Let's see here. So Noelle's lower body pulls a move where she vomits up some more clones, and they're a little undercooked, but she gets a Vista and Elite and they're running toward Eidolon to. Well, no, the elite's running away from Eidolon to get supplies and start building guns, probably. But you know, let's see here. She swarms Leet. They decide that their new goal is not going to be to fight the Vista, but they're going to do clone cleanup and run a large perimeter. So they split up into groups. Tecton and Grace go one way. They don't say where Imp goes, but I'm guessing Imp is still on Bentley's back with Rachel and Skitter. And then Regent, Gru, and Tattletale go in a third group, and they're all going around to take out any clones. And this is when Skitter finds a cloned rat, an evil rat. 2 + 4 × 5 said, yeah, regular elite does love games in addition to hating them. Okay, yeah. So she realizes that that's clone's rat, and then that's when she puts the pieces together, and she's like, cloned bugs. We get some detail on, like, when people touch the side of Noelle's body, she doesn't have to, like, consume them through a mouth. They just, like, meld into the body and just get pulled in. And it's, like, more than just them slipping in. It's, like, a suction. She tries to pull a quick move to spew out a bunch of clones at once, but accidentally loses the real Vista and among the group. And then, as we see here in the artwork, a tongue or tentacle launches out and pulls Vista back into the mass. And then Skitter tells Tattletale that she's keeping the capes even when she spits them out by accident. She's pulling them back in to get more clones. And then Tattletale realizes that if they kill her, they'll be killing all the people inside her. And then direction. So Noelle's sort of running away again. Skitter's gotta fight rats and human clones and fight cloned bugs, and there's a lot going on for her to do as the chapter ends. She's basically thinking through her laundry list of things she's gotta fight. And I guess this is when she finally puts it together. She says, I might have missed it if I hadn't had the bugs pressed together to contain the rats. I had missed it already, countless times. Wasps, hornets, and cockroaches were crawling free of the slurry of flesh that Noelle had vomited into the building's lobby. They were attacking my bugs and any people they found. I couldn't sense them, and I couldn't control them. Yeah. Hate to see it. Chapter thoughts. Is a good, interesting fight. There's gonna be like lots of fighting, but every chapter feels really distinct from each other, in my opinion. Because like we had that previous Vista fight that feels totally different, and then we have this fight, and even then, like the fighting in the next chapter, which is an extension of this, feels totally different than what's been happening up to now. But I'm just gonna jump into it. I think it is. I have less to say about the individual chapter and more to say about them together. Boop, boop, boop. Skitter tells Gru and the rest of them that the bugs are being cloned, and then Tattletale says not to worry about it too much because she probably absorbed like rats and bugs before they even ran into her, so she probably already had them. But then Skitter points out that she was using Hornets, Black Widows, and Brown Recluses, and Tattletale's like, okay, admittedly, she may not have had those. Guru says not to focus on the problem and just move forward. The mistake, I mean. And then they sort of start moving in. She says that she's going to go with Bitch and fight unpowered clones and keep in touch through the swarm. And then she's going to use swarm, pictograms to point the way toward other clones for the other teams to go after. Tattletale thinks Eidolon's changing his power. Skitter's going to try and communicate. Tattletale says Imp's going with her. And then, Rachel gets the dogs together to do a clothesline maneuver with a chain and totally wrecks an entire area of clones, and then they realize that there's an innocent person, so Skitter hops down to fight her way and sort of saves that person, and then the dogs hop in and smash their way through the clones, and Bentley's killing them. It's a bloodbath. When they're really going all out, as we've seen in the past. And then, Skitter thinks about Rachel having Bastard hold back, and she feels anytime she stops for a second, she feels tons of extra pain through all the wounds that she's gotten. Her ribs are having problems. She's getting dizzy because of her previous smoke inhalation, etc. But she's still fighting because she is crazy. And that's why we love her. She's using the swarm actively to just fight, and she's only hopping into places that need the most assistance because she can stab people. So she's hopping around fighting several people, convincing herself it's okay to kill the clones. They're not people, they're mockeries. And she also thinks, damn Noelle, damn her for making me do this. Which I agree with, but you could really throw that in Taylor's face if you were uncharitable. You'd just be like, do you have to do this, Taylor? I think that would be one of those really classic unfair to Taylor moments where people would just be like, I don't know, maybe you should find a way to not kill them, but I don't know. It's one of those situations where you'd kind of have to let civilians die to take it easy on these people. So, given her priorities and most people's priorities, makes sense what she's doing. And then she realizes in horror that the clones are standing up for each other and yelling at her for fighting them. And then she kind of reasons with this main clone who's talking to her about this Steph clone, and she sort of reasons through, and he hates the normal Steph, but he likes the clone Steph. He's on Team Clone, so they're all teamed up clearly, and they naturally like each other. And they'll talk about the non-cloned person very negatively, in the worst possible terms, including, the non-cloned version of who they were cloned from. They hate that person most of all, seemingly. And then, he describes himself as a soldier. He says that his uncloned self is definitely not a soldier, and that, he starts going in on him, yelling about his perceived flaws, etc. And then she asks him what his game plan is, and his game plan is just kill everyone and everything. Just like, no end to this. Just destroy everything, really. And then she has a moment where she thinks about chapter 1 of the book. Skitter's like, his words struck a chord, and it was the closest experience I'd ever had to the sort of flashback that happened in the movies. I could remember being in the school bathroom, dripping with juice, being so frustrated, so angry, so hurt that I just wanted to lash out. And she again sort of asks, if they all die, kill others, burn this fucking disgusting city, burn this fucking country, keep burning, keep killing. So, it's a little tough to work with these guys, as you can see. And she asks, is there any way I can get you to stop? And he says no. He even says that he's not like Noel's soldier, so he's a soldier in service of nothing. But anyway, he goes in for an attack. He's already quite mad at her because she's been biting him with bugs, but she swarms around herself so that she can sense the area as people move through, so that she can dip and duck, etc., despite her wounds. She starts a coughing fit, which, great timing, but that is what happens when you hop around a bunch and you have smoke inhalation damage, so. Let's see here. She's fighting him. She stabs him in the back of the knee. She convinces herself that they're not real people, and she stabs him in the side of the throat. Let's see here. Boop, 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 boop. She has Rachel kill people on purpose. She says, stop him. Finish them, Rachel. She thinks it feels wrong, but Rachel doesn't respond, not thinking it feels very wrong. And then she's trying to keep tabs on Noelle, but it's super tough because she doesn't want to actually touch Noelle, so she can't do what she would normally do. She can tell that Gru and Noelle are in visual distance of each other, and Gru saw her. And then there's flying capes in the mix, seemingly, but she's not close enough to know too much about the situation. They're close to ballistics headquarters, so that could come into play. And Skitter's really worried about that. There's a hero here called Chronicler, who I think his power is awesome. He can kind of do a replay of what people have done. So there's heroes who are flying around shooting laser guns, and then he just has a replay of that, and the lasers are still at full strength on the replay. So then there's the replay guys firing, and then the normal ones firing at her new position, so they can just keep doing their thing, more and more of them. I don't know what the limits are on that, if he can only do one at a time, but either way, double your firepower. Pretty good. The team flying around is Texas wards. The names are so Chronicler is the one who's doing the replayed dudes. His emblem is a book with chains around it. Then there's the Flying Capes, Strapping Lad, Intrepid, and Young Buck, who of course Regent makes fun. He is incredulous. Strapping Lad, and they're from Texas. Seems like Eidolon's trying to get new powers because he's not acting right now. Skitter somehow remembers these wards from the Leviathan fight. They're all flying about. And then she says that they're going to be ground support for them. And kind of start moving in. Oh, Vale says, those are already clone names. What the heck, Wildbow? Yeah. Only a clone would have a name that bad. Let's see here. Greg says, don't make fun. Strapping Lad will grow into a fine macho man. Yeah. Let's see here. So Young Buck can seemingly turn himself into a moving projectile that like launches in a straight line. So he's like hitting Noelle that way, and it's the other ones who are using Tinker beam attacks. And then the group comments on the fact that Noelle's bottom section looks like Rachel's dogs, which at first offends Rachel. And then they move in. Tecton breaks the ground under some stuff to move. Oh yeah, to stop Noelle from getting footing. So like break stuff just before her feet plant down. They split up into people who will be good against clones and people who will be in the fight against Noelle. So like Regent and Imp fight clones, for instance. Gru and Rachel are going in for the Noelle fight because they can actually be part of that. Gru's trying to connect to Eidolon's power with his darkness, but Eidolon keeps moving out of the way, and Gru's getting pissed. He asks Grace if he can copy her power, and she's like, "You want to copy my power?" Vale says, "Strapping Lad and Kid win. The PRT nightmare when they hit 30." Yeah. So, Tecton breaks some more ground in another direction, sort of slightly away from Noelle, and then Skitter gets the idea to make an antlion pit. Or no, Skitter gets the idea that it is an antlion pit and that she's being dragged in, and that her weight will cause the sand to shift beneath her if Tecton does it right. So she'll keep rubbling, she'll keep crunching the rubble, getting drawn further down. So, that's his current goal, and it seems to be working decently. Then she's like vomiting to create traction. It's like these chapters would be like really disgusting to visually see out, and like if you're one of those people who is sensitive to vomiting, like you just wouldn't be able to read this, I feel like, or watch a show version of it, definitely. I know people who have whatever the phobia is of even seeing other people vomit. So, you know, it's not a problem I have, but I've seen it in person. Vale says anime worm, 2 episodes to skip. Yeah, I mean it'd be a shame to miss arcs 18 and 19, frankly. See here. Yeah. Scooter's timing out the attacks and telling people when to move and stuff. And then she's still fighting clones with bugs, and then Circus throws a knife and takes oh wait, I forgot about this one. This one's cool. There's a Circus using the pocket dimension to just pull in a bunch of air to make a strong vacuum. And this is taking up Chronicler's focus, who has to like replay the air so that more fills in, which I think is kind of a hilarious like that's an awesome use of power and then counter use of power. It's great that he can like fill in air or whatever. But let's see here. Regent knocks people over to knock off course. Regent's super useful because he can distract people like who use powers. Like he's distracting the Circus by knocking them over, even when there's no physical action to it. It's still enough to be thrown around that you can't like focus on it. Vale says the anime is 1 episode per chapter, not 1 per arc. Sheesh. Greg says can't wait for the 4 words episode. Yeah. It's an OVA special. They play the full opening and ending, but they it's only like a few seconds long. It's terrible. Vale said the same thing. Let's see here. So right when Noelle's climbing out of the pit that Tecton keeps creating, then Gru and Grace run up and they both do like leaping kicks using the temporary invincibility to just slam and jump off. So that's got to be a pretty cool move to see, like the 1-2 hit from the two of them. And then this is when Uber clone throws a knife and takes Young Buck out of the sky. And Young Buck has a knife wound, so he's just got to sit there and keep the pressure applied for the time being. She's like she's going hard on this Uber, like tearing him to bits like she would do to a Slaughterhouse 9 rather than the way she'd act to like a normal enemy villain. And then there's some more skirmishing with the Circus and the Flyers. And then Regent knocks the Circus off balance for long enough for Grace to get in there and punch him in the face, which like instantly kills Circus. Circus clone. Normal Circus will persist. Oop. Let's see here. So Noelle's really pissed, keeps falling back to the bottom of the pit. Like Andy from Parks and Rec, just can't stop falling in the pit. Skitter's kind of upsetty that she can't put bugs on Noelle. She's thinking about it a lot. Let's see. Tattletale knows something crazy's gonna happen, so Noelle again uses like lots of barf to like it says. When Noelle vomited, the slurry came out as one stream, a geyser that extended 600 or 700 feet. Rachel steered Bentley out of the way before it hit, and the others danced off to either side to avoid getting splashed. Grace got clipped and went sprawling, almost glued to the ground under the weight of the fluid. And then there's also clones that got sent into different areas. So she did a clone line attack where you summon clones in a line, damaging any opponents who are in that line. Noelle's played a lot of video games, guys. And then yeah, she's murderizing clones under her body, crunching them to death as something to walk on and get out of the pit. And then, oh yeah, I forgot. They don't talk about it that much, but they're getting armband notifications in these chapters. It just doesn't bother to call them all out like it did in Arc 8. So it just says, like, I could hear armbands informing others of the fallen. Because even though most of the characters have armbands, Skitter is not wearing one. But, you'd think that she'd hear all this because she's on the back of a dog with Rachel, or she's next to Tattletale, or, she's always with someone who has an armband. Evil bugs are still abound. Even Skitter gets poked by an evil hornet. Let's see here. Says Noelle advanced on the burned cape and Grace, but I wasn't sure what that meant. I thought that maybe it was that Young Buck had initially been written to be hit. Oh no, Circus was pyrokinesising, so it's probably someone who got circus to the face. I think it's cool that there's a circus that folds into her own pocket dimension. That's pretty cool. Boop, 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 boop. Where was I? They're still fighting. People are shooting at her. There's enough vomit that she says she can feel the increased humidity in the air. Grody. Fucking gross. And then that is actually okay. I forgot that the reason that the humidity is increasing in the air is because she's also Eidolon is desiccating everything, including Noelle and Grace and whatever other hero got burned by Circus. So Tecton's yelling about this to Eidolon, but he's seemingly too far away to even hear them. Gru says it's probably going to be acceptable losses, explains the whole thing about Eidolon deciding it's worth it to fight a possible new Endbringer. And then Skitter says, if it makes you feel any better, Eidolon might be assuming she's already dead. It's some cold stuff, and Tecton's probably pissed. Eidolon uses the gravity again, so he hasn't given that up. meaning the desiccation, he must have given up either his precog sense or his power immunity. So either way, kind of bad. And then Noelle gets like torn apart by the gravity smashes and stuff, and like flesh like rips free every time, but like because of the desiccation now, but she's just regenerating super fast like an Endbringer would, really, and just keeps filling in the pieces. Oh, and like a Crawler would, so not just an Endbringer, but like I don't. It's unclear to me if Crawler or her heal faster. I think Crawler does, because his healing is like stupendously fast. Vale had said earlier about the OVA thing. In the anime, it's also a musical episode. Controversial take. I'm not sure if the controversial take was something I was saying or what, but hard to always keep track. So, suddenly Noelle starts getting shot from behind, and she gets like gore exploded through her human torso and human head that's at the top of the monster, the tiny girl atop the large monster. And then they realize that Ballistic is there, Scrub is there, Trickster has shown up, and he swapped Grace out and moved himself in, and then Skitter can't talk because of like continuous exertion and lung damage, and so Gru yells, "You decided to help!" And then Genesis explains that they realize this is their responsibility. Skitter still doesn't know what they mean when they say getting home. Like, Tattletale has, I think, still not told her that they're from another universe or parallel Earth. However, the right phrasing is, I think parallel Earth is right. Anyway, so she doesn't know they're from Earth Aleph. Sundancer explains more that they promised each other stuff. Noelle yells that they're traitors. And then Genesis says she'd agree with them under normal circumstances. And then even Trickster's there. He's all sad. He's like, I know. And then Sundancer is going to burn away Noelle and destroy her. Noelle doesn't want it to happen. Ballistic says she's already gone. And uses as evidence the fact that the normal Noelle couldn't survive getting shot like that, which I don't think is good evidence, because if she had not lost her sort of her volition, like if she had not had these problems, then she could have had a superpower that allowed her to like survive getting, some ridiculous amount of damage while still being like a normal Noelle. So it's kind of a non sequitur statement to just be like, well, your superpowers mean you're different. Because that's like, we could be like, well, the old Luke couldn't shoot debris as bullets, so you're not Luke anymore. It's kind of a hollow argument. But they're all in a very heightened emotional state, so, Trickster's smoking a cigarette. Noelle basically convinces him through a few back and forth lines of dialogue. He's trying to argue against what she's saying, and she's just like, what are you talking about? No. And the last thing she says is, you owe me this. and then he sighs, spits out the not even smoked cigarette, the barely touched cigarette, it says. And then Gru tries to raise darkness around them so that they can't get teleported, but Trickster's really, really quick on the draw. Again, he loves video games. That is what a lot of these capes have in common, is they just love video games. So the darkness isn't fast enough. He pulls Gru first so that there can't be more darkness. And then Noelle gets Gru. And then yeah, he's just like bouncing around. He gets Eidolon, Ballistic, and then Skitter like fourth. And once Skitter's teleported, she gets got like very quickly, and all of her efforts switch from trying to escape to trying to reorient her body so she doesn't get snapped like a twig. And then she's not even able to really make any progress on that front. It's just that Noelle's body naturally like keeps her in a non-snapped state so that she can be used. And then Regent gets caught, and she can feel that happening. And then it's like a Junji Ito situation. She just like slides right into that flesh. I always just think of that one with the people-shaped holes on the mountain, where the people, like, once they're slightly in, they just slide in and in and in. Classic manga. And I mean, this is definitely horror adjacent. But yeah, the chapter ends with her stuck. She can't use any of her normal bodily senses. She's just hearing the pounding flow of Noelle's blood in her ears. And so 3 of the Undersiders, Ballistic and Eidolon, or I think Eidolon and Ballistic got swapped but did not get caught. I think the ones who got caught were just Gru, Skitter, and Regent. But either way, she got 3 of our main characters. So, and this is the last Taylor chapter of this arc, which you wouldn't know if you were reading it, no looking at table of contents and or at the time, but this is the last moment we get with our true protagonist for 3 chapters. So I say 3, but I guess there's 2 whole chapters of gap. It's a cliffhanger, a dun dun dun, if you will. And yes, as Vale says, the upcoming interludes are great. So the gap is drawn out in a very satisfying way. As for arc stuff, again, I think these chapters fit together perfectly. They're really great. They're not like too samey, but they are covering similar stuff. I mean, I don't want to talk too much about the next 2 chapters, but yeah, it sort of has, as we've discussed the whole arc, followed that to an interlude and to an interlude, and right at this end we'll get 2 interludes. And it's exciting stuff. The pacing of this section of the book is delightful. I love how it's broken up. I love the mini cliffhangers. I think the beats hit just right. So yeah, that's arc stuff. As far as characters, we'll start off with Grace. Grace is very sure of Eidolon, as we discussed, and is very like very hero-pilled. She's very bought in on the PRT and stuff. Tecton is bought in as well, but he's like, well, we need a backup plan in case things go wrong. Or like, I'm willing to trust Skitter and stuff. Like, these things happen, and then Grace looks to Tecton sometimes and is like, okay, I'll go along with this. I'll let Gru use my power. We'll both jump kick people. So she's sort of letting her guard down more as these people prove themselves. I think I missed a moment. Grace. I missed a moment earlier where she was confused why Taylor needs to. Yeah, it's there's vomit but no clones. She's trying something. The two-dimensional vista. She's ambushing. Ambushing who? I don't know. Can you see them? When they're moving on a surface, are they visible? Why are you asking us? Grace asked. I really like that. That's in the antlion section when he destroys as much of the ground as possible just to rumble them up. So so that's fun. But yeah, the nod to the fact that people can't tell she's blind, even when there are kind of like stronger tells like this. I thought that was really good. I really like that. For like it makes sense that her character wouldn't see that. I guess this is kind of a chapter thought that I only realized after I thought of Grace. It's too bad that Grace got puked on and spun onto the ground, etc. Next we got Tecton. Yeah, he's also hero pilled, but he's leaning more toward the like, let's see what happens and back up the Undersiders kind of camp. He believes in the genuineness of their words in terms of what their goals are. So he doesn't need to like these guys to be able to work with them, kind of thing. I think Tecton's a really cool character. I'm always glad to see him in a scene. Next, we've got all the silly heroes from Texas: Chronicler, Young Buck, Intrepid, and Strapping Lad. They don't get too much characterization outside of their names, but I do think that Chronicler's power is super lit, and I would love if it was in more of the book. It's really only in a couple chapters. I think we'll see it in the upcoming fight or whatever, but like, I don't think he comes back. If he does, I can't remember him being anywhere, but he might be in like a much later scene or something. There's a lot of characters who, even if they don't get murked, they just don't come back because there's a lot of characters. Regent, him next only because he gets his main standout moments are like knocking about clones in effective ways, and then also when he gets to be completely nonplussed by the terrible hero naming schemes. Strapping Lad. You can imagine that a name that bad upsets him more than the terrible scenario around him. Regent. Then we got Rachel. She does not say a lot these chapters. She's pretty merciless with the clones. She explains the thing where she's keeping. I think she explains the thing where she's keeping Bastard from killing people on purpose. If she doesn't hear, then it's just like Taylor mega noticing it again. I didn't super note down which, but one problem is I do, even when I like listen to the chapters a couple times, then sometimes my brain will just import stuff from further. So that's a bit annoying, but who else we got? So Imp gets put in / puts herself in a lot of danger. But really, she's just doing a normal amount of work for the team, and I do think that in some ways, because she's Gru's sister, then Tattletale and Gru always treat her like she shouldn't be putting herself into harm's way. Like she shouldn't be in situations that they would put themselves in if they had the same power set or whatever. I think you get what I'm saying. So they're kind of mad at Imp, but she was very effective. And I mean, she knew just when to reveal herself to keep herself safe and stuff too. So, very good battle sense, I think. Next up, Gru. He's sort of helping. He's helping Skitter lead things while she's having all these problems. Like that's why he communicates with Ballistic, because of her injury, stopping her from yelling out, etc. And he's always like pretty cool in these cape situations, honestly. Like he's got all the PTSD or whatever, but like he has not had a single problem in this fight. He's like kept it together almost perfectly well because he's not fighting like a tinker. He's not fighting like a little girl. Like the kinds of things that would set him off are not present here. Tattletale, I think she's just being Tattletale this chapter. She's not that nothing super notable. She gets very worried about Imp, but like that's the only thing, and that's pretty normal for her. Taylor, I think she is more. She doesn't emphasize how much her injuries are slowing her down that often, but they are slowing her down considerably. It's mentioned a few times, but I think there's a subtext that, like, normally she's always doing the most, and she can only do a little bit right now. Who else we got? Ballistic shows back up. He's probably the first Traveler to have been like, okay, we gotta kill Noelle. I mean, he's been on Team Kill Noelle the whole time. And then he shows up, you know, of course, with Genesis, Trickster, Sundancer. Sundancer is on board with burning Noelle, which it's like one of those things where she waffles back and forth in how committed she can be, and she in this moment has got up the gumption, maybe, whatever word you want to choose. She got up the gumption to like maybe kill off Noelle because of how destructive Noelle is being and how they can't like get her to stop, etc. Genesis is very resigned. She's sad. But like we've talked about it before, Genesis sort of has like a distanced relationship with most of the others, so she's just like slightly more sad and wistful than normal. More, oh, we'll remember the old Noelle. And then of course the star of the show, Noelle and her clones. They get lots of great interactions. I'll talk about the clones first, actually. And then I'll talk about Noelle and Trickster together. That's how I'll do it. So, we get a lot out of the conversation that Skitter has with the cloned non-parahuman man. And we We more or less learn that in the short term, rehabilitation is impossible because the clones are so, like, murderous on purpose. They've got the bloodlust. And so she chooses to prioritize, like, killing them off to save other people, which is, like, I don't know. I don't think it's, like, that bad of a choice. I get that there's moral ambiguity, etc., etc., but sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. I mean, she's killed she'll kill non-clones if they're dangerous enough, like Coil. So, you know. Um, so then, and the clones get some sweet sort of power alterations. And even when they don't have power alterations, they clearly have different inspiration from the person who used the power normally. Um, because we've never seen Circus use a, like, super vacuum attack, which pretty cool use of a pocket dimension, I guess. Um, Although we have seen Mirden do that. Um, but Yeah, and then Noel and Trickster. I guess Trickster's a little less important. He is convinced to switch sides, which, like, I mean, that's the ending that many people saw coming from a mile away, including characters in the story, like Ballistic. Um, and yeah, he really turns the tide of battle incredibly quickly. He was resigned to killing off Noelle. He had agreed with the group, but then in facing her in reality, it just was not gonna really happen. Um, and then Noelle, she's going through a lot. My dog is snoring up a storm. Um, Noelle is she's flipping out. I don't even know if she's trying to control her emotions at this point. In terms of, like, the way that uh she has to, like, commit a lot of herself to hold back, basically. I don't think that she's willing to waste energy on that right now. And she's very creative in this battle. She's got a lot of power in a lot of ways, but, like, even beyond that, it's clear that she is, like, a quick thinker and can use a new ability she's never had in the past to great effect. Like, she's able to combo with her clones. She's able to, like, do the thing where the tongue lashes out to grab Vista. She's able to do, like, the super vomit where she makes, like, a clone line attack, like we talked about earlier. She's like Skitter level creative, I would say. It's very impressive. And she's angry as hell. Um, she's not gonna take it anymore. And take what? Not killing the Undersiders. She's not gonna put up with that. Um, but anyway, I don't want to talk about Noelle too much because she's gonna have her own, like, interlude later. Spoilers. So I just sort of want to cover her more then, especially because Vic will have a lot to say as well. So we'll talk about Noelle a lot. I'm gonna move us on to the audience participation question. Make up your own evil Noelle clones of capes. Going to any answers now. Looks like we got a couple here. Okay. So, from Vale, we've got the evil Clock Talker. This young man will just not shut just will not shut up. While he talks, time stops for everyone except the person he's talking to. They are mentally forced to be avid listeners, and everything he says becomes a permanent memory that never fades. Wow. That's a pretty powerful alt cape, that damn Clock Talker. A shadow talker. As long as she is in shadow, she can throw her voice to any other shadowy area and make fun of anyone there. She is so unpleasant. Spitter uses bug control to create really bad rap. So she like beatboxes with bugs, I guess. Kid Gab, a tinker who makes devices that allow him to talk to his friends. Where he has no friends, this is angering, and he therefore uses his device to talk to anyone and everyone in the city constantly. So evil. Verba, she is the youngest clone, can stretch any conversation that should take minutes into hours. This team of evil clones comes together for the Brockton Bay Words, a team of young people clones that nobody wants to face. Luckily, an Eidolon gravity welded them in before Wildbow had a chance to write their chapter. Very good, very good. Then we've got from 2 + 4 × 5, Bone C, Bonesaw clone spawned with no eyes. She uses her bio-tinker powers to make a powder that hijacks people's eyeballs and lets her remotely see through their eyes. Wow, Bone C. Jack Crack, a Jack Slash clone, but with blunt weapons instead of knives. He can swing a hammer and collapse a building. That's pretty good. Dear Lord. Brown Note, a Shatterbird clone that can make a citywide sound that causes everyone to uncontrollably defecate. Will fly into a murderous rage if you dare call her Shitterbird. Wolfsaw, a Hook Wolf clone that transforms into a blob of chainsaws. I don't know, I kind of gave up on this one. Thank you for those wonderful answers. I gotta say, I think Bone C is my favorite name. It's so stupid. I like that Vale had a themed team, so that's very good too. And they even get named, the Brockton Bay Words. For some evil clones I'd like to see, first off, all of my evil clones will have, if they normally have facial hair, they will be clean shaven. But if they're normally clean shaven, they will have evil goatees. So they just get reversed. The ladies, they have evil goatees too. Unless they started with facial hair, in which case they are clean shaven now. I would like to see an evil version. This is something that's impossible within the story, but Evil Weld. Evil Weld, he would be like, instead of metal, he'd kind of do what he and Noelle do to metal and flesh respectively, but he'd be for plants. And let me think, what would his evil plant woodman name be? Weld, what is it to, combine plants. Is there a word for that? Combining plants. Can you combine plants? Well, this is all about planting multiple plants in one area. He would think up a considerably witty name for the fact that he could merge into and reshape wood. Maybe it would even be something that has to do with like a cultural, like a old wood spirit from somewhere. Who knows? But I would like to see an evil weld who interacts with wood the way normal weld interacts with metal. What else do I want to see? Evil clones. I think that an imp clone would be just too powerful. She'd just murk like 30 people right away before someone with a camera pointed her out to the other troops. It'd be terrible. the losses would be staggering. Evil Mirrodin could be like he'd just be like an evil character from the story. He'd be like, instead of Mirrodin, I'm Mordred. Ha ha! And then Mordred starts fucking up everything. Mordred's the son of Mordred. Yeah. Mordred's the evil. Yeah. I'm like, did I just make that name up? Anyway. Oh, and Vale has been saying some things. So evil, those clones. Wolfsaw is responsible for deforestation at a global level. Yeah. It's terrible. Evil Weld is meld, bodies only. Ah! And then he fell for Sveta clone Held. She has large, soft appendages. They give nice hugs. Oh, that's nice. And the clone Sveta is mad because she's like, I want the power to kill like normal Sveta. Ah! It's a happy story. Meld and Held. Alright, well, I have said nonsense about this question while trying to think up cool capes for long enough. For the next interlude, the fourth one in this arc, the question will be... Something I think up and post later. That's what the question will be. But I'm gonna end stream here. Gonna just start the old outro music, and read off those wonderful links. So goodbye to everyone who's been here in the chat. You've all been wonderful. The music is Queen Scourge by ScarlettXOX. You can find her at twitch.tv/Scarlett_Rogue. She just started last weekend a series where she will be doing a tabletop RPG once every other week. So you can find that not this week, but next week on that Twitch channel. That's called Gas Station Blues. That's the name of the campaign. The Discord server link can be found at in the description and channel description. The author of the work can be supported on Patreon at patreon.com/wildbow. The full text of the work is available for free online at parahumans.wordpress.com. And there's a fan-made audiobook of the entire work at audioworm.rain-online.org. And I'm gonna go ahead and let the rest of the old outro play. Talk to you guys next week.